Hi, this is going to be a Song of Songs session, and this is my favorite part. I have quite a few favorites from Song of Songs. Um, so, chapter 2 from verse 10. My beloved spoke to me and said to me, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. See, the winter is past, the rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth, the seasons of singing has come. The cooing of the doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, my darling, come, my beautiful one, come with me." There's a song with the same lyrics in Hungarian, and the author wrote it to his wife. Um, and there was this time when I was part of a big youth movement, and we were doing like events with thousands of people, and it was quite a busy thing to do. And I remember this was one of those days when we were doing a big event, and I only had a little bit of time early in the morning to spend with God. Oh yeah, I think I had the whole morning, and I was listening to this song, um, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come to me," and I was listening to it over and over again. And I don't say that I understood it. I didn't say that I got any revelations. Everything happened way beyond my understanding. Actually, most of God's communication is beyond our language and thoughts. But it wasn't like I understood the theological aspect of bridegroom and bride, and why Christ is our bridegroom, and how this whole thing is theologically grounded. I was just there, and I felt like this is it. God is about, like, I was being drawn to something I didn't know. I didn't have that spousal understanding of the relationship with God and man, between God and man. I was just like, there is just something about this song, this attitude, and I was being drawn. There was a pulling force, and not because I understood. It was I remember at a point I was just crying heavily, laying on my back, being overwhelmed, and I felt like I could only receive like a very small part of love. Just like, it wasn't like I could give myself over to it. I was like, okay, there are so many hindrances in me, I can just allow it to happen just a little bit. But still, this little bit was the thing, the real thing. And I didn't really understand back then that this is gonna be my life, like discovering that kind of understanding of God-man relationship. So it was it was, if I had words, it's a great thing when you can put your experience into words. If I could put it back then, which I obviously couldn't, it could have been this: arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. There was this pull inwards, just like something sucking me in. And yeah, I remember that then I was like totally busy buying stuff in IKEA for the evening and praying for people, and it was like a crazy night. But I was like, okay, I already had the greatest thing in the morning, and I don't really care what happens at night. And usually those nights were like miracles, hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people. So it was intense, but yeah, I was like, oh, I had my morning. I don't even care what happens in the evening. So yeah. And I was just like one of the volunteers, nothing special. I was like using all my time. I didn't have an understanding of like ministry or whatever. I was like, I spent all my time with God, literally. Like if they said it was intercession time for the evening, I was worshiping. If they said I should like cover the floor with carpet, it was worship time for me. So I basically, if I had a little bit of break, I went under the staircase where no one saw me, just to worship there a little bit. So it was like the season of my life was like this pool of the presence of God. And I was so excited about what's gonna happen next. And there was this childish expectancy for God to show up and do something amazing, like in Alice in Wonderland. It's like it was like following the White Rabbit, and you always end up somewhere very weird, and you get always more lost and lost as you follow the White Rabbit. That's exactly what was happening to me. I always felt this attraction, this drawing of the presence of God, this whisper of come to me, and it was mostly not a voice. This is more like a desire. I was so sure that this is what God desires with me, and I was like, I had the very same desire. Like I wanted this more than anything, to drop everything and just be with Him. Like this was Jesus. This was something Jesus always told to His disciples, like, come and follow me, come with me. He said this to Peter and Andrew and to Matthew, like, come with me. And they dropped everything and followed Him. And this season was that for me, dropping everything. Like I didn't start a job, I didn't start a career, I didn't do anything meaningful, I didn't start a relationship, I didn't do anything a normal person would do in their early 20s. I don't advise you to do the same. All I say is that in that season of my life, my love for God was shown in that crazy attitude. And sometimes, as I said before many times, sometimes I didn't even eat. Like I was like, I found it a burden to go to the kitchen and prepare food for myself, because that would interrupt my fellowship with God, which is obviously not a truth. Like preparing food won't interrupt your relationship with God, but back then, this is how I perceived And this was my reaction to God. And it was out of love, and I wouldn't exchange this season for anything else. And now God absolutely teaches me that He's in everything, that I shouldn't like dissect things like, oh, this is holy, this is less holy, this is something that is related to the presence of God, this is not related to the presence of God, so that I can do anything and everything with Him and in Him, and He will be all over it. So now I'm in that season. This is why I produced that many things. Back then I didn't do anything. Still, there is something about radically dropping everything and just being with Him. So sometimes we have this thing that, oh yeah, you can follow this Jesus guy on every weekend, and you can fish on weekdays. That would be a compromise, and a reasonable thing to do. You shouldn't shut your business, you know. We have this reasoning, and it is so foolish. Of course you can have your business and Jesus too, if this is something that you feel like doing. But if you feel that you should drop everything, then you should drop everything. And yeah, in this season of my life, I'm doing all kinds of things. I'm an artist, I'm a vlogger, I'm about to start a publishing business, I speak at places, I do a lot of things. I spend most of my time still with God, but I do things as well. And this first season of my life, it was nothing but seeking God. And of course, the presence of God is there and it's constant. But are you aware of it? Do you enjoy it? And this radical season of my life was when I learned to be aware of the ever-present presence. And it can help you to learn to live in the presence when you make radical stuffs. So there is a little bit of lie in it when you feel the presence and you know that it is always yours and you cannot leave it and you cannot fall out of it, and then you decide, okay, then maybe later I will enjoy it. And it's like a river, like there is always water in it, but it's not the same water. And it's not like you miss the water. You will always have water, but not the same water. Which is not worse, it's just you didn't drink that water. You have another one. So it's the same thing with the presence of God. It's not like you miss something. You don't make God upset, obviously. You won't make Him withdraw His presence. You cannot fall out of anything. It's just like, if you have it, why wouldn't you enjoy it? God is equally present at a disco, at a mall, and at a worship service, but are you aware of it? And if you are aware of it, it doesn't matter where you are. But if you are not, it does matter. Like if something makes you unaware of the present, stop doing it. And Bill Johnson talks about it a lot, like hosting the presence, appreciating the presence. Most of the church, especially in Hungary, is terrible with hosting the presence. Like every time the people start to become attentive to the presence, they shut it off. I'm trying to experiment with it, but I'm still not much better than them. I'm saying I'm part of the problem. When I have events, I always like, how do you do that? And appreciating the presence is not like God is in a better mood, so that he gives more of his presence today because it's Black Friday heaven. Um, it's more like you are more open to him. And there's a lot of factors to it. Your psychological things, your things you watch, you didn't watch, didn't do, um, physiological things, how much you slept, what did you eat, how you are doing emotionally, what kind of conversations you had, and the many other factors that can make you more or less attentive to God. Um, Maybe there can be a phase in life when you are like equally attentive to God all the time. I can imagine that. All I say is that I'm not there, and there are days when I'm like, I wake up and I feel like I never had a relationship with God ever, and I don't even feel like talking to Him. And there are days when I'm singing worship songs in my dream and I wake up drenched in the presence of God. And it's funny because I know that I'm constantly in the presence of God and I can never fall out of it. And why do I have that much of a difference? So it's like I always laugh at myself. There were times when I was frustrated and depressed about it. Now I'm just like, it's so funny. And because I can have, due to different circumstances, a different approach to God, I started to appreciate my openness to God. Okay, I feel this drawing of the presence today. I sense this come away with me. And I shouldn't like busy through my day if I feel this come with me. And equally, when I feel like God is in everything and He wants me to do different things, I shouldn't be like sitting in silence all day if I feel the urge to do art with Him or write a sermon or whatever. So yeah, both of them, both sides are true. Today, if you hear His voice, don't harden your heart. And maybe it's not a voice, maybe it's not a thought. You just feel this attention and openness. And yes, there is something about hosting it. There is something about appreciating your accidental openness to God. And today is the day of salvation. So if you have this moment, don't go into like, oh, I can have it anytime. God's presence is a constant thing. Yes, it is, but do you enjoy it constantly? Are you that open to Him all the time? If you don't, you should probably appreciate the times when you're that open to Him. And this 2016 season was that for me. Like I was like, this was the only thing I wanted to be with Him, and everything else was like, was so burdensome and meaningless. And still to this day, I have those days or weeks when I'm like, I won't do anything meaningful. I'm gonna just be with God. And it doesn't make sense to me at times because, God just showed me how much He's in everything, in every physical thing, in every activity, that nothing is separated from His presence. There are no holy and unholy, spiritual and non-spiritual things. Still, I just don't want to do anything. And He says it's like, there is a huge relevance of being radical, even if you understand like that you cannot lose the presence or cannot fall out of it, or you can have it anytime. Because if you can have it anytime but you postpone it every time, you never have it, what you actually have. So if you have it, why don't you enjoy it? And if you say like, oh yeah, I am married, we are always together, we will always be married, so we'll never do a date night with you ever again, I will never have a night out with you. It doesn't make sense. And it's okay that you don't have a special night every night, like you don't go out to a fancy restaurant, but if you like never do it, it's just like, are you doing okay in your relationship? And this is the same thing with God. Like, you never lose him, but do you enjoy him? He never leaves you, but do you pay attention to your husband you claim to love so much? Do you answer to his call? Come with me, come with me. It's not like you have negative points, like if you don't do, it's not like he won't bless you, it's nothing. It's just like, today is the day of salvation. If you are open to him, now is the time to enjoy him. This is the season of singing. This is the season of enjoying him. If you feel like this is the season, if you feel this drawing of the presence of God, just host it, just appreciate it, just give yourself over to it. There was this time in my life when I felt like, okay, I'm in the grace of God, I don't need to do anything radical. Like, it doesn't make sense that I didn't eat back then, because I felt like I would interrupt the presence of God in my eating. It just makes no sense. It's not gracious. And now it's like, it makes a lot of sense understanding grace and being radical. Not just like out of fear or performance. It's just, if it's mine, why should I postpone enjoying it? And if I find myself in this gracious state of openness towards God, and intention and affection and desire for him, then this is the season for singing. This is the time when I let it happen, when I stop resisting his call, when I give myself over to this desire for him. And yes, the Holy Spirit mostly has this on repeat. Come away with me. In the Hungarian version it says, hurry up. There's something about this must happen now. It's not like you miss it. It's like you miss it. Not like it has an eternal consequence. It's just, God is sorry for you that you miss out on enjoying even that. So it's an ever full river, but there is a certain water molecule you cannot drink if you start drinking like 10 minutes later or a week later. Not that you won't have water anymore or less water, but not exactly just same water molecules. Like, it's like he's so rich, he has amazing encounters and experiences for every time, and yeah, so we cannot miss anything, cannot fall out of it. He's forever ours, we are forever married to him. But there is something about dropping those nets when we hear him saying, "Come away with me." There is something about stopping the resistance and letting him happen. There is something about being radical about it, and sometimes having a week or a year or a decade out of normal life and wasting it on him. There is something about wasting. His love is kind of wasting. Yeah, maybe that's what Mary of Bethany was so special. Like she was making something unreasonable. And the same when I had this season, I was doing a lot of unreasonably radical things. And most of them doesn't even make sense theologically either. It was just answering to this pull, to this call, to this drawing of the presence of God. Yes, and every time my Christian life starts to become like comfortable and boring, I always remember this, like, I don't want to leave this childlike excitement and this magical like amazement, like, oh, God is about to do something if I let him do what he wants to do now. It was like I was really hurrying, like I was like, oh, I will miss something. I was like that, and it wasn't true, but this intention and expectancy and openness towards him made me experience a lot of things and a lot of miracles, by the way, but made me like more attentive to his presence. And this is the time when I kind of learned how to be attentive to his presence. And there is something about giving time to learn how to be aware of the presence. So yeah, it's always there, but if you don't know it, like, there's not much use to it for you. Yeah. Arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. Today is the day of salvation. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Come with me. Amen.